Yeah, you're very welcome back this morning. Now, slightly conflicting reports in the Irish Independent and the Daily Mail about the speed at which we can expect some resolution to the ongoing crisis at the FAI. Philip Quinn's story in the back of the Mail is saying that the FAI are set for a bailout and the arrival of the directors. The FAI's bailout is set to be revealed this week, as well as the identities of the new independent directors. I think there's a consensus that it's going to be this week that we're going to see the details of the independent directors. But Philip Quinn is saying a provisional agreement has been reached between football chiefs and two of its senior stakeholders, the government and the banks. Kevin Doyle is reporting in the Irish Independent today, though, that government sources says that notion that it could bring proposals for a rescue package to Cabinet as early as this Thursday are absolute nonsense in inverted commas, and the FAI still has to implement a lot of reforms before taxpayers' money will be committed. So it looks like we're inching towards some kind of resolution to the crisis and a deal, the structure of which must have been discussed at this point, although when that might have happened is still a little bit unclear. We're given to understand that no deal is in place just as it stands at the moment. Stephen McGuinness of the PFAI is with us again this morning to kind of talk us through a little bit about what kind of information flow is heading in the direction of the stakeholders. Stephen, I'm sure you're reading this as much as we are and trying to piece together exactly where we are at the moment. What's your knowledge and how well briefed are you being kept by the government and indeed the FAI at this point in time?
We'll be kept more, the brief from government is probably more than the FAI at the moment. We met with Minister Ross and Minister Griffin on Friday for just short of 2 hours, the players, ourselves obviously, and the clubs. And he seemed to be fairly confident that the independent directors would be in this week, the middle of this week. So obviously tomorrow seems to be the day that a lot of people are saying that the independent directors would be in. In regard to the financial package, he went 99% of the way to say that the FAI or that the government wouldn't allow the FAI to go into examinership or insolvency. So you would expect a deal of some sort. I don't see UEFA bailing out the FAI, so I think the only show in town is the government. I think it'd be unprecedented for UEFA to come in and bail out a federation. I think right across Europe, no federation has ever gone insolvent, but UEFA have never bailed anybody out, and I think it'd be a dangerous precedent for them to set if they did do it. So I think it really is in the government's court to resolve this. Now, on that basis, you would expect the government then, if they were going to do it, that they would have not control isn't the right word, but they would have people in place, and I think the word would be maybe some more senior civil servants, maybe part of the 4 independent directors that come in. Okay,
that's interesting. So that would make sense. That would give them oversight of financial, regulatory, legal issues that would be able to keep the government briefed on exactly what was happening from every board meeting, and on a more granular basis they'd be getting a flow of documentation that then would at least keep the Department of Sport aware of what was happening at the FAI and with the government. Maybe it's not even the Department of Sport, maybe it's the Department of Finance, given that we're talking money here.
Correct, yeah. Now look, again, this is only merely speculation. I'd be close enough to it myself, and so would other stakeholders, but I mean, it would be very unlikely if the government, I would think if the government are going to underwrite this, that they wouldn't have some type of eyes on what the future of the FAI is. And I think what the Minister has seen since his comments in the Oireachtas is how much actually the League of Ireland people care about it. Like, I think people underestimate the support base that it's got. The interest in the country for the league, I think, was underestimated, and I think the reaction to maybe the comments of the league, if the FAI went to the league, would go. I think maybe caught them by surprise, and caught Minister Griffin maybe by surprise as well. And to give them credit, they've obviously given the opportunity for the clubs to come in and meet them. Some people are speculating as well about, like, on a bailout, where would the league be then? And I suppose from ourselves and the clubs, it's looking at, like, the FAI are still going to run the league for next year for sure. Like, but I think the long-term future of our league is that it does have to be independent of the FAI, and that's something obviously ourselves and the clubs we would very much want that. Now, like everything, Jerry, you can't just go and pull away straight away. We've under 13, 15, 17, 19 league now. It's not just about the two senior leagues. So it will be an interesting year ahead, and the main thing is to get this bailout done and to get the finances of the FAI sorted from a staff point of view, basically cement the organisation, at least in the short term anyway, before we can then look from our own perspective on where the league is going to go.
Did that meeting get into any of the details about how a bailout might actually function, about what it would look like and how it would work in terms of job security? Because in Philip Quinn's piece, he says that he thinks that there will be job losses are expected. He says, is the exact quote, at the cash-strapped association.
Yeah, I suppose the meeting we had the other day was more around the League of Ireland and the clubs, and more around what questions we would want from UEFA when the Minister was going to meet them. I think it's probably inevitable, Jared. There's just over 200 staff in the FAI. I think it's unfortunately inevitable. I think some of the stuff the Minister maybe has said would be that the cuts, if you remember the last time that there was cuts, like it didn't seem fair if you were looking from the outside in at the FAI that everybody took the same percentage cut. So whether you're a guy on the minimum wage or you were the guy, the CEO on nearly 40,000, everybody took the same percentage cut. I think it'll probably be different, I'd say, and you would like to think the guys at the very top would be the ones shouldering more of the burden if financial cuts required and if jobs are being lost. That the guys at the bottom, which is the ones who affected the most the last time, that would be the case this time.
Yeah, okay. So, Stephen, in terms of the politics reporters, Kevin Doyle from the Indo is reporting that the government would need to see reform before they commit to funding. The pace of reform will quicken once you get the independent directors. So there's a bit of a jigsaw to be done here. Some bits need to fall into place. But you feel fairly confident, I would say, that this is moving in the right direction, that some resolution at least is on the table and there's a plan emerging.
Yeah, I think it needs to be recognised as well that the current directors that are in now, from what I can see, have done a good job. I think Paul Cook has done a good job. He's been straight. He's been direct. I think the other directors are guys and girls now from the SFAI who are independent of what went on before. So I think there's a better independent look on the board even currently, even though they're coming out of the same gene pool of the old council, which really does need to be looked at. But I think that looks different. I think the four independent directors are absolutely key, and they will drive the reform that's required. And like, see the top of the culture of the FAI, like it's the senior management team at the very top is the one where there needs to be change as well. Because I mean, the board of the FAI, the old board, were rubber stampers. Really, they didn't really do the day-to-day stuff. And I think the people who are at the senior management end of things, that's where the focus has to be. And I think from the minister, as much he may have been criticised for maybe some tweets over the Christmas or whatever, I think he's been fairly consistent in his approach in regards to moving that old regime on. And with Donald Conway gone in the next 2 weeks, I think the old regime is pretty much gone. The council has to be reviewed, and as I said, senior management absolutely has to be looked at. And I think these independent directors and then the independent chair, and then ultimately, Jerry, the big one then is the CEO, which will probably take another couple of months to get somebody in that's going to direct the ship then long term. So I think these are all key moves that I think through all this, Jerry, in the end, I think we have a far more transparent, better governance and a better organisation. So the pain that we're going through, I think long term this will be far better for Irish football. That's
the thing. Like compared to the last time we spoke to you, when you were at pains to remind people that football was a livelihood for many, many people in this country and that this was at risk, you sound much more positive in the aftermath of the changes that have happened over the last, I want to say, 6 to 8 weeks even.
Yeah, I think where myself and other stakeholders see the difference is that the old guard is moving and has been moved. I think there's still a bit to go, but I think there's a feeling within the people within the game, and is that we are definitely seeing a new dawn at the FAI. There's still a bit to go, but I do definitely think that the changes afoot. I think the independent directors, Jerry, are key to everything. The chair of the board will be key, obviously, and a new CEO. And with the government now, ultimately, if they make the bailout, I think they will be setting the terms and conditions without interfering too much. Because it is funny when you hear UEFA and FIFA saying we don't want anybody from government dictating to our federations how it operates. But ultimately, they're the ones going to bail this federation out. So the UEFA and FIFA can't have their cake and eat it as well. I mean, if the government are going to put the money in, they've got to have some eyes on what's going on here. You're not going to bail this thing out and then suddenly walk away and find yourself in 3 or 4 years going back to the same scenario again. So
no, and nor should they, because it is taxpayers' money at the end of the day.